This session, I think, is very important because it's titled Understanding Responsible Gaming. Now, that kind of brings a kind of a serious note to the room. And in this panel, I have two legal experts as well. Shivani is there as well as Nachiket. So I'm going to expect a lot of gyan from them on the responsible side of gaming. So just to start with, when we're talking about esports, gaming. Now, a lot of this, there are a lot of challenges that come into play. For example, there's addiction on one side, where responsible gaming comes into play. And then data theft, there could be cyberbullying. All of these things come in when you're talking about multiplayer games and getting responsible gaming. So I'd like to open with Shivani when it comes to responsible gaming. What are the kind of regulations that are there in place? What are the laws that are there in place? To kind of circumvent cyberbullying or online harassment or these kind of things.
Hi, Roshun. So, to understand, let me actually bring a very sad news to you. Gaming itself exists as an exception under the Gambling Act. But despite that, or in the absence of defining gamers as a special user class, there are existing laws under, let's say, even the IT Act or prevention of cyberbullying or the PMLA Act that sort of creates an ecosystem where, yes, a user can go and complain, even to the extent of like approaching the consumer affairs departments. But there is no robust ecosystem that protects users of the gaming class per se. Reason being that despite the absence of a protection, it's not that other laws do not apply here. It's not like cheating does not apply to gaming or the online world. It's not like sexual harassment protection does not apply here. It is the accessibility and the range of the gamers. So a user, if we're calling them a gamer or user slash, it then becomes a user versus platform debate and can range from anyone who's a 4-year-old playing an educational game on an 80-year-old or a AAA game. There are formats. Right. So what we have eventually ended up doing is that we're dividing these users into formats, that this person is a casual gamer, this person is an esports player, or this person is a chess player or a poker player. What law does is that it just demarcates people into two categories, which is user and platform. Now, there, in the absence of any specific set rule, if we ignore the provisions of the IT rules that ask to set up a self-regulatory body or appoint a grievance redressal officer, if we put that aside for a moment because it's not been implemented yet, there is nothing that the user can, or there is no forum where a user can go and approach and sort of get a resolution. I would like you to add to that.
If you can add to that.
Hi. So first of all, thank you for having me here. Like Shivani said, the IT rules did come up with certain, first of all, they mentioned that they included gaming intermediaries and said that all those platforms which run games will be considered as gaming intermediaries, and they will have to set up grievance redressal officers and so on and so forth. However, that is to be enforced only once the self-regulating bodies are set up. Until date, no body has been recognized by MATI as such. And it seems that it won't happen as well, because now MATI is going to come up with its own regulations as to which games will be permissible and which won't be. Right. So, as on date, apart from the IT Act and say self-imposed grievance redressal mechanisms that companies might have to prevent cyberbullying or to report cyberbullying, there won't be any specific laws which prevent or which safeguard people from being subjected to cyberbullying, because that's one of the most prevalent forms of cyber torture.
Right. Deepak, if I was to ask you, how do you deal with such kind of issues on your platforms?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here, and good afternoon. There are very clear, established technology and processes. I'll delve into some of these a bit, which enables us to kind of ensure that our platform is a safe and secure place, right? KYC norms are followed, which is, and by the way, I'm from an real money gaming industry where minors are not allowed to play. So hence KYC becomes a very important gating or very critical gating mechanism for us to ensure that. And then there are, once you start playing game, there are inherent checks and balance to check if there are some players who are colluding, if there are fair play violations happening. So these are, real-time checks that normally happen as somebody is playing to figure out if something which should not happen is happening at the gameplay, right? That could also happen in some platform. They enable peer-to-peer conversations, right? Which will mean that at that point in time, you're also monitoring those conversations to see if there is something which should not be spoken or should not be written is getting written. So technology plays a big role there. Similarly, in terms of cash transactions, right? I mean, starting from having an escrow account, which ensures that player money is used for players' purpose, only it is their money, right? To making sure that there are enough checks and balances at the time of adding cash and withdrawals. So those are the systemic processes, tech-enabled processes which are in place. I would also like to talk a bit about the recent code of ethics which was signed by all online gaming companies as early as, I think, last year, where I think all these companies, they have come together and said that taking a pledge to work on 6 areas. Responsible gaming is one, and there are other things like responsible advertising, minor protection. There are things on, on responsible advertising, so on and so forth. And I would like to delve a bit on responsible gaming because this topic pertains to that. Here, essentially, industry is trying to do 3 things. Number one, giving the power to the player itself to set their own limit, right? After all, gaming is a form of entertainment, right? But for any form of entertainment, moderation is also required, right? And we want to give that power to the player to say, okay, you define what is right for you. But that is not what it stops with, right? Then the second thing is actually companies are also saying that, okay, we are trying to, look at player behavior and trying to see if some of them are behaving irresponsibly, right? And that is where the second part comes, where you are continuously monitoring player behavior and nudging them in when somebody, say, for example, is going beyond a particular threshold. Now, and third is essentially upskilling, right? Because when you are skilled, then you are in a better position to know your boundaries. If you are not skilled, you do. I mean, if I'm a Formula 1 driver, I can go fast because I know how and when and I can brake, right? The same philosophy applies here. So these are, companies are actually deploying all these elements which are very clearly laid out in the code of ethics. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do.
Okay. Zerah, first to come to you, one of the biggest challenges when we talk about responsible gaming is dealing with addiction, right? So in your opinion, how can gaming companies deal with tackling addiction, especially because it leads to a lot of other issues after that, which we will come to, mental health issues and things like that.
Thank you so much, first of all. Good morning, good afternoon, actually. I don't know what time. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me. And talking about addiction, see, as the word sounds, right? You can be addicted to anything. As a matter of fact, anything that's over excessively done can lead to addiction. In gaming, again, there are 2 parts to this. One kind of gaming is, as Mr. Deepak said, is RMG games, where it's about the age of 18, there is more control in the user is more intelligent, he understands when he's getting addicted, and then it comes down to a choice, right? Whether you want to go ahead and continue with that addiction or no. But in our case, for example, I work a lot in the esports sector. Over there is the child themselves don't know that it's addictive, or it could lead to long hours of gameplay, which over the course of time could lead to addiction. And in this case, to solve this problem, not only from the side of someone like Deepak's company, Gameskraft, who need to take every step they could to make the player feel that, this is the threshold. More than that, I think it also comes down to the guardians, comes down to awareness among parents, whether is this child playing this game for so long that it's addictive. Like today, if I ask you if you play Candy Crush for an hour, do you agree it's addictive or no? You will not have an idea to that answer. The same way, how to deal with this, we have seen lots of different opinions. Like in China, they say that, go ahead and let's get gamers to only play 2 hours in the whole week. There were a lot of debates on this, I think, that Shivani and I had gone for. And we said that no esports player can be told you can play only 2 hours in the week, because we need to practice at least 8 to 10 hours to get to that play level. Otherwise, internationally, we will not stand anywhere. How do you define who's a casual player, who's an esports athlete, who's an RMG player? We are still getting to know the differences. And even inside esports, as a responsible gamer, a gamer who's playing FIFA, a gamer who's playing Counter-Strike, a gamer who's playing Fortnite, they're all different categories of ages. So it's very difficult to draw the line. But I think the best way we look at right now is the fact that if the parents are made aware, for at least the minors, the parents are made aware that, okay, you play 3 hours a day after you finish your studies, whether it's cricket or whether it's an esports title, that could be the first line drawn. But like, say, from Deepak's side, it would be that from a platform, we can keep restrictions, but at the end of the day, a player can make a new ID. He can find other methods of beating it. So it comes down to just being more aware. And I think that's where I like to put a lot of my concentration on nowadays, that let's first get people aware of what gaming is. And then let's talk about how responsibly a player needs to act inside a game. And then let's talk about what companies can do. Because I think we put a lot of pressure onto companies and very less on the individual playing,
Right. Yeah, Nachiket.
So to add on to what Zerah just said, I think responsible gaming is twofold, right? Like there has to be a choice made available to the player, and there has to be information made available to the player to make that choice. So there has to be an informed choice by the gamer as well. And companies can do a lot in terms of providing how much or what they term is, what they might feel is addictive behavior, or what kind of limits players might want to have in terms of them playing real money games. So, and they can also reach out to, say, civil society groups which deal with addiction.
Right.
Because there are a lot of, like, you see that in terms of real money gaming, what I've seen so far is that a majority of the complaints which come regarding addiction are from people who are marginalized or who are from poor economic backgrounds, who are looking to play the game not as a form of entertainment, but as a form of livelihood, which is the wrong way of going about it. So that's also one thing to consider.
Yeah, so that is actually one area which is of concern, tackling, especially when there's real money at stake. Of course, the other thing is also mental health. So Shivani, if you want to touch about mental health, because long hours, you get warnings in most games saying you've been playing for half an hour, playing for 1 hour, do you want to stop now, take a break, whatever. But is that enough?
See, again, these are all mechanisms that we can discuss, and none of us over here is a mental health expert. So to be able to comment on how gaming is impacting mental health, and in that unfortunate situation where I don't think we have an India-based study on the impact of mental health on online gamers yet. When I go back a little bit to discussing what are the mechanisms that companies can do, or industry can do, or the government can do, or civil society can do, it's a tripartite agreement between civil society, industry, and government, where there needs to be plain understanding that, boss, this is a protected class. Why is it a protected class? Because there are financial frauds, there is mental health issue that can come. I mean, we are seeing to the extent that early childhood behavior post-phone addiction can lead to the extent of epilepsy. We're seeing that. We're seeing how 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds are addicted. our generation has somehow not gone through those 10 years of gaming or those 20 years of gaming at that scale to be able to give that definite result, or for us to have a definite class size and like a unapologetic remark on someone's mental health. Now, Roshun, I can guarantee you and I are probably, there are days working 10, 12 hours a day. We are not going to be called addicts. Coming back to livelihood and entertainment, we in fact did a study last year. And it was a very extensive qualitative and quantitative study amongst 90 professional gamers. And we realized that 60% of them are playing games because it is their livelihood. They're not playing for entertainment. Yes, the two major reasons are livelihood and entertainment, but and I would probably let COVID take the credit or discredit for pivoting this, where there are new opportunities in gaming that exist not just while you're gameplay and putting in money and bringing it out, but as simple as showcasing your gameplay and becoming an entertainer in that field itself. I mean, there are fantasy players, there are rummy players, there are poker players, there are AAA game players, Dota, FIFA, who are streaming their game and there are lakhs of people watching them. So this then becomes 3 layers of entertainment. It is entertainment for the person who's playing. It is livelihood for the person who's playing. It is entertainment for the person who's watching. Yeah. So in that ecosystem, to say that their motive is the reason why their mental health bad would probably incorrect. But what are we doing to fix it is the bigger question. And what are we doing is probably 1% of what we can do. If we have 700 registered gaming companies in the country, why is it that the buck stops at 10? It's because there are no laws and rules that mandate the other 690 to incorporate those safe gameplay mechanisms. So while responsible gaming, safe gameplay sort of goes hand in hand, where it is the user's responsibility to play responsibly, but at least give them that notice or platform or intimation that this is the line which needs to be drawn. When it comes to mental health, what happens is that, see, a defaulter for one platform is a business opportunity for another platform. Yeah. So there is no mechanism or method for banning across platforms. If we look at physical games, a person caught for doping in volleyball will not be allowed to play basketball. That's not the case in online gaming. A person who's been delisted from one platform is now a product for the other platforms. So this kind of consolidated effort cannot be one person or one sector's responsibility. And it's really unfortunate that it's only the top 10 that have institutional money or that have reached that unicorn status in gaming or who have more than like 10 million users are being able to take those actions. The others are not. And the biggest culprit in this is the fly-by-night operators posing to be gaming companies, but they're offering gambling games. That's the problem.
That brings me to the question, user safety also. I mean, there's so many platforms available now, and to the layperson who's going into a Play Store or an App Store and just downloading these games, they're not very sure whether these games are taking their data or worse still, taking their money, right? So how do you ensure that there's user safety on a larger scale? I mean, as Gameskraft, probably you have your checks and balances in play, but there might be other companies simulating your same gameplay, similar game, but probably being a little predatory there.
Let me take that. Like any services that companies offer, right? Gaming is a entertainment-related services that we are offering. So which means that the name of the game is to not only acquire players but also retain them, right, for a longer period of time. Otherwise, you will always spend money to get player and they will churn out, and the economics do not make sense in those cases. And how do you retain them? Then you retain them by offering superlative experiences, right? Whether it is experience while adding cash or onboarding them or playing game, or if there is something that does not go right, how quickly you are able to resolve those kind of things, right? I think this equation invariably is correct across industry. If you are building good experiences for your player, they will play in your platform and they will retain themselves. And what then happens is that then there is a trust that gets built on your platform, and there is word of mouth. Some of the gaming players I've seen are fairly close knit, right? I mean, they may not be going to one big social event saying that okay, all gamers are coming together, but they are close knit. There are social channels through which they communicate, right? And word of mouth plays a very important role there. So I believe that a platform's ability to generate trust in its own systems and processes comes from a deep-rooted and a systematic and a systemic investment in building trust and building experiences. That cannot be mitigated. That cannot be replicated easily. So while it would be easy for some of the fly-by-night operators to maybe acquire customer, I would like to believe that it will be difficult for them to retain them. So that is one point. Having said so, that is where I think both Zerah and Shivani are espousing the cause of regulation. Nachiket spoke about it, right? And that is where some kind of regulatory framework needs to be put in place. The framework is already there. It needs to be executed, maybe executed fast, where it becomes slightly difficult for these so-called fly-by-night operators to come and wreak havoc, if I may use it. And in fact, that will, by the way, I want to talk about another thing, right? People say that, okay, whenever you're talking about gaming, it's a win-lose proposition, right? You say, okay, if somebody's winning, somebody's losing. The equation is not as straightforward, because if you're coming for entertainment, like I go out to movie on a weekend for some time, right? So I spend money. So you are spending money here for some entertainment, right? Now, there essentially what, so that means it's a win-win proposition. So that's what I think a lot of the gaming companies are trying to do. How do I retain my customer? I retain my customer if I give them value over a period of time, which means it's not a transactional relationship. It's a relationship which goes beyond one transaction, one game, right? So I think that is the name of the game.
Right. So when we talk about gaming here now, I think it's still an evolving industry where you're now seeing more and more professional gamers coming about, right? But still, gaming as a profession is not yet fully understood in India. It's still seen as more of casual gaming, and esports is still a very nascent industry over here. But do you think that once this industry attains that kind of maturity, then we will have more discussions around responsibility? There'll be larger platforms, there'll be more regulation on that front?
I think if we are envisioning a ecosystem where, say, esports and e-gaming is considered to be a professional setting, then we ought to have such discussions much further, rather than trying to have those discussions once it is recognized as a professional event, right? So I think the more people discuss about responsible gaming and how, like everyone here is saying, that it has to be like a tripartite agreement, has to be collaborative. You have to give information to the players to make those informed choices. I think the more we have such discussions, the more aware society as a whole will be as to how to go about gaming.
Right.
Is what I feel.
Roshun, I'll take that. So we have an Asian Games medal in esports. We have a Commonwealth Games medal in esports. But at the same time, the year in which we won the Commonwealth Games medal, Karnataka had banned online gaming for any kind of money, which meant that in that 1 month period, if the team had landed back in the country, they could have been in jail. Because any game played with money, even in form of participation fee, user is criminal. This is the biggest drawback that we're facing when it comes to users in the country, that when online gaming gets banned, while the companies and company representatives become criminals and can be imprisoned or have a punishment, the same applies to the user also. In that case, it becomes very difficult for an aggrieved user to even go and file a complaint, because they're anyway doing an activity which the law of that state has perhaps said that is illegal. Now, if we come back and see after the ban getting removed, even right now, there are a few states where gaming is banned. So a person may be a professional or maybe winning games in one state of the country, but it continues to be a criminal in other states. Last year there was an allocation of business rules amendment which identified the Ministry of Youth Affairs as the nodal ministry for esports. Now, what happens after that? How is it that we are going for Commonwealth Games and Asian Games? We do not have, there needs to be a national sports federation, and there is a national sports federation for every game where India gets to represent outside. There is no national sports federation for online gaming. You go on the Ministry of Youth Affairs website, every 6 months they update which federation has become the national sports federation. There is none. How is it then teams are getting selected? How is it that our players are going out? There are tie-ups with the Asian Esports Federation. There are representatives that exist in the country. That ecosystem exists in a very informal way. Right. So there is no lack of professional gamers in the country. There are enough professional gamers in the country. It is just that they are not state funded. It is just that they are perhaps going on their personal money, winning accolades, standing on the podium with the flag, coming back and being just any other person and probably fighting with their managers for like some extra visa fee that they had given from their pocket. And these are live examples. Yeah. I mean, there are people who have gone, played, won a medal, come back and are struggling to get the visa fee out. The reason being what Deepak was saying, non-implementation. It's not like we do not have these systems in place. There are these systems in place. Last year's industry, you guys, companies, government officials, we've all collaborated on multiple platforms, multiple places, multiple states, centers. I mean, you name it, we've done that. Yeah. We have created that system. That system hasn't been implemented. That's the problem.
Right. Zerah, if I can get your take on this.
Yeah, so again, like Shivani said, there are lots of parts. See, when you talk about responsible gaming, right, we get the company side, we get the government side, but even as a player, like I've been a player for 15 years now, even till today when I go to a school to give a little conference or anything, they'll always say, "Are gaming taboo?" Like they'll all behave like as if it's an unspoken law that you don't talk about gaming in front of children, because hearing it only they may get addicted. And that taboo needs to change. Like, if you go internationally and read these studies, all of them will tell you, oh, gaming, it helps you with your cognitive abilities, it makes you a better team player, it makes you better this, that. And you go to a school also, you will find a lot of parents say, oh, my child, is the captain of the football team and look how many runs he's scoring. But the minute someone says, oh, I'm playing a game on my phone, they'll be like, oh, what are you doing with your child? Kya kar raha hai bachcha din bhar phone pe hi? But I think that is the core problem, right? Because unless you don't respect a sport, how is it even considered of value to even the government to appreciate, right? The basic difference of not knowing what gambling is and what gaming is something that is in our blood. Like I would say in my blood, in our parents' blood, that gambling hai to galat hai. So responsible gaming for me, addiction, all these things correlate to gambling, which has now become gaming. Like that same concept.
I want to add to that. It's also a applied ethics question now. See, Tamil Nadu, nobody has a problem paying physical rummy. There you'll walk around in the streets, in the corners of the villages, and there will be a group of people somewhere playing physical rummy, and physical rummy is not a punishable offense in Tamil Nadu. But Tamil Nadu is one state that has made online rummy the biggest issue that they've ever faced. It's reaching all courts, it's going from here to there. And the saddest part is that one state's high court is not willing to accept the other state high court's decision. So this kind of like multiplication, and we studied in law school like 20 to 18 years back, 15 years back. This is game of skill. This is game of chance. These are the judgments. This is the parameters. If there is predominance of skill, it is not gambling. Till now, I mean, it's been 20 years. There is no qualitative analysis or metrics on which we can decide. The logic is that the more you play, the better you get. It is a skill game. Make two bots play. If a bot is getting better, it is a skill game. Because there is not a probability of you getting better in a chance game. So, I mean, skill and chance has now become an old argument. We're agreeing that if we're existing in this ecosystem, it is not a chance game. Now, chance games are anyway punishable, then we should all be in jail.
And one thing that we have to always keep in mind is, see, gaming is open to minors and adults, right? So when anybody comes and asks us, so that do you think my child should be playing games? It's very difficult for somebody like me also to say, please go ahead and let them play, because there is no regulation, right? Tomorrow if something happens to the child, or he's not paid, or there is no team taking care of them, like Shivani says, if there's no one regulating, how can you ask children or people who are very young who play games to go and play it as a profession?
Yeah.
Because the parents are never going to be okay with that.
I'd like to also take a couple of audience questions. If anyone has a question, just raise your hand and we'll take the question. Yeah, there's one question there. Gentleman in the black coat. Can we get a mic to him, please? There. Can you please put your hand up, sir? Yeah.
Yeah, hello. See, somebody in the previous discussion talked about responsible advertising. I, as a marketeer, would like somebody to expand on that. What exactly is meant by responsible advertising? Because the primary objective of any gaming industry professional is to acquire customers. And as you guys have also said, 60% of the gamers are looking at earning livelihoods. So how to make it, how the advertising can help in that domain, and what is it doing now? Because, you know, most of the advertising by gaming players is targeting bigger names. There are celebrities who are coming into it and promoting it. So how to keep a tab on it, and is there a regime, and what are the laws, or if somebody can throw some light on that?
So last year, the Advertisement Standards Council gave a guideline to gaming companies to adhere to certain norms and not pose gaming as a money-making mechanism for users. Barring that, it is again a self-regulated mechanism that companies take. But you will often notice that platforms that are selling their platform as a big win platform will be betting platforms. They will usually be offshore companies. You will not see too many Indian companies do that. At least there are reports that say that in the last quarter, the advertisement spends of most of these platforms have been reduced by 30%. So they have taken cognizance of the guidelines that were released last year. They have been becoming mindful that we're not going to pose our platform as a win place, but we'll pose our platform as a skill gaming place. That's the minor shift, but you can probably add more to that.
Yeah, so apart from the guidelines, ASCII already had pre-existing guidelines which said that minors cannot be used for advertising purposes. You cannot make it attractive in a manner that says that people who play skill-based games or play real money games are somehow better off than people who don't play such games. So there was that angle being utilized by certain companies. Now it's reduced to a great extent, and yeah, I think those are the large parameters that companies need to adhere to while advertising their products.
Right.
I think the result is what we are seeing, that there has been decrease in revenue, decrease in their own spends on advertisement. If those reports are to be believed, and that's true, and it's reduced to such a drastic level, then perhaps it's a nascent industry. They were all trying to probably acquire users. They were all trying to probably sell one product or the other. It is only through this hit and trial that they've all realized that we need to limit to what extent can we sell our product as a money-making app, to what extent can we sell our product as an entertainment app, And if someone wants to pick it up as a livelihood in a country where there is unemployment to a great level, we can't stop people. During COVID, that 5 rupee, 10 rupee that they were earning daily basis from these apps was perhaps someone's not extra cash, was perhaps someone's like basic need cash. And not just in our country. Like if we see the Philippines, there was a NFT based game that generated so much income that the government did not have to even eventually pay for people's vaccination. And they created that what was the name of the game? Axel Infinity, yeah, sorry. So I'm not saying that country.
We have seen people, maybe NRIs or maybe Indians only, who migrate abroad, and they have started gaming companies, and they are having lots of cash. They are
Yes, sir,
flush with
because
it.
our regulations are such
the-
that if we're running a gaming company here, they will be labeled as a gambling company. Our and foreign jurisdictions allow. The UK, for example, allows
benefits,
gambling
yeah.
also. The US allows fantasy as long as you're offering 2 games. So it also depends jurisdiction to jurisdiction and which country is allowing which formats of game.
Maybe just for the data sake, as you said, their spends have come down. They have shut one shop, they have opened 2 others with different names. But I don't think. See, we have been a broadcaster. The number of advertisers from the gaming industry have multiplied. In fact, which is good for us. I don't want that.
So-
but then, how do
Deepak,
you
you
make
can
it
take
more
this
responsible?
So-
See, more
so-
and more people are joining it.
So first of all, in the earlier panel, somebody spoke about impact of GST, right? And one of the things that companies are doing to survive is to be extremely frugal, right? So that is one of the reasons that you see advertisement monies are coming down. But companies are also doing lot more. So there is the Charter of Responsible Advertising. You spoke about it, and it's there in the
But
Code
then,
of Ethics.
Let's say, I mean, if you talk about electronic media and it's a 30-second commercial, or let's say creative, 30, 20, 25-second, whatever it is, or a 50-seconder. So how do you express responsibility in that? The objective, sole objective or predominant objective in that is to acquire customers, which is happening. And the people who are most gullible are the ones who are down the social economic ladder.
Nachiket, do you want to take that?
So that's precisely why companies also have disclaimers, not only just written, but there are also audio disclaimers that not just in say one language.
So that's one. Yes, you
Yeah.
can have one frame even before the commercial starts.
Right. So,
Yeah, but like that certainly helps.
And also, quickly, 10 seconds on this. So companies are deploying a lot of technology, machine learning tools, etc., to identify behaviors which could be construed or has a higher probability of distress users, right? Those signals get used most of the time to kind of channel your advertising activities. Say, for example, if somebody has called our some company's help center and says, okay, don't allow me to play, or don't allow this account to remain active for X amount of time. Now, during that time, companies normally would not send them marketing collaterals, other collaterals, right? So, and by the way, it does not stop. Responsible behavior does not stop only in communication, right? How you are making it all pervasive through all the touch points that a player has with the platform. That is important.
yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
Right. I think with that we are out of time, so we can take this discussion offline outside. And with that, I'd like to thank Shivani, Deepak, Zerah, and Nachiket for being such wonderful panelists here. Thank you so much.